Hey folks, Randy Newberg here with another episode of Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio. Today I got two great guests that I've got to know quite a bit over the last few years. Guys who share my passion for public land advocacy, for hunting public lands. And they're, how do I say this without seeming impolite? They're younger than I am. We'll just use that term. And I learn a lot from them. They have a different view, a different perspective. They both have some really cool platforms out there that I hope you'll follow. But I'm always interested in how younger people, and I shouldn't say real young, I think they're in their early 30s, look at some of these issues. Especially conservation, public land advocacy. But if you follow the Hunting Public, they're a YouTube channel. Aaron Warbritton is here. Hunting Public is based in Iowa, but they specialize in hunting public lands, not out here in the West, but in the Midwest. Really, really cool stuff. You should follow them if you don't. And then our other guest, sitting over here looking at me kind of funny, is great guy, Sam Soholt. If you see the public land school bus campaign that's been going on for the last 2 years, we had Sam on our podcast a couple of years ago when he came up with this idea of building an old school bus into a camper and traveling around the western United States. He also owns a company called Public Land Tees, T-shirts and hats and other stuff that he sells, and he contributes a good chunk of that revenue to conservation causes. Recently just made a big donation to RMEF to help them. So anyhow, as quick as I get done with these sponsor introductions, we're going to have a really good conversation with Mr. Sam and Mr. Aaron, and hope you'll stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, we want to thank Leupold for making the podcast what it is, supporting us in all that we do. Amazing optics. If you're in the market for optics, go to leupold.com and you'll see what they have. When you go to your retailer, I hope you'll look at Leupold optics and you'll end up with some of those optics that have those really cool gold rings on the end of them. I've been using them. I bought my first Leupold rifle scope. I think I was 14 or 15 when I bought that thing. So I got a long track record there. Orion coolers. It's the hot time of year, and we're getting ready, moving into hunting season here, where you're going to be thinking about, if I'm going to fill my tag, how do I get this meat home and keep it cool? Orion Coolers is your solution. Go to orioncoolers.com and use promo code RANDY and save 20%. Let's see, on X, yeah, I think we got a lot to say about on X maps. Where to start? No, we're not going to make this a whole OnX map commercial. So anyhow, onxmaps.com, go out there. We're just getting ready to release our new 4-episode e-scouting series with them out on our YouTube channel. Go there, and if you buy app products from OnX and use promo code RANDY, you're going to save 20%. And then we have gohunt.com. Right now, we're recording this podcast in July of 2019. And I think through October, Go Hunt is giving everybody a free look, a 30-day free trial to the Go Hunt Insider. You hear us talk about it. It's what we use. It's how we draw tags. It's the whole works of, when you sign up for the 30-day free trial, you get everything that I get as a subscriber. So go to gohunt.com/Randy, RANDY, and you'll get a 30-day free trial. And they also have a really cool gear shop that if you use promo code RANDY when you check out of their gear shop, you're going to save 10% on that also. But anyhow, enough of me rambling and carrying on. Let's get Sam and Aaron on the mic here. They're looking at me, wondering if I'm just going to talk all morning. So here we go. Thanks for being here. Well, folks, I have no idea where this conversation is going to go because I got two crazy guys sitting here with me who I've got to know over the last few years, and they're a ton of fun. But welcome to another episode of Leupold Hunt Talk Radio. On my left is Aaron Warbritton from the Hunting Public, world famous public land whitetail slayer. To my right is Sam Soholt, probably disguised as a school bus driver, but really a badass photographer, expert waterfowler. Could be teaching classes to the world about how to arrow South Dakota whitetails.
Here and there.
Left-handed with his eyes closed.
That's right.
Are you left-handed?
I am left-handed.
Oh, wow. All right. Right-handed. Are you left-handed?
No.
Oh, all right. No. So that's why we set Sam over on this side. He's left-handed.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
Anyhow, folks, these are two fun guys that if you aren't following them, I sure think you would benefit from doing that.
We'll teach you what not to do, at least.
Yeah. Can tell you a lot of stories of failure.
Oh, yeah.
I've got years of them. I should just do a whole season of stupid mistake episodes.
Should.
I bet you I could fill 3 seasons.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Those do better on our channel anyway.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People want to see us fail and screw up and everything.
Yeah.
Luckily, we give them plenty of that. I mean, there's one kill video for every 15 other videos, it seems like.
Well, it's more relatable, right? I mean,
For sure.
Like nobody goes out in the woods every time and gets it done. I mean, there's got to be a couple guys like that, but for the most part, it's more relatable when you're getting your ass handed to you in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still remember the first year we did On Your Own Adventures. 2008 we filmed, and then the first year on the Outdoor Channel was 2009. And my buddy Scott Jones, we're in Nevada. I don't even have a tag. He's got his longbow, and we don't kill a buck. So we send it into the network, and a lot of folks don't know how this works, so I'll give a little bit of explanation. But you send it to the network. They have their QC or quality control department looks at it, make sure you don't have any egregious things going on there, and you're within the confines of what your production contract is. And they email me back, hey, you didn't kill anything. Yeah, so I got a few of those this year. What's the problem? I think that year we had 3 no-kill episodes, and I remember telling the person, next year I'll be lucky if we have 3 kill episodes. We did pretty darn good this year.
Yeah.
And they warned me to just like email after email and even higher up the food chains. Like, Randy, look, you're new at this. We strongly urge you not to, think about something else. Do a best of or something. I'm like, no, this is what happens with me. And so
That's how they ran for a long time.
yeah. And so I sent it.
Worked.
I told them, I'm writing the check to you. A lot of people don't know that on Outdoor TV, you pay the network to air your stuff. And they're like, all right, yeah, I guess, yeah, you're in compliance with your contracts. I guess, yeah, we'll air it. We're just know that we suggest otherwise. Whatever. And it was one of our best viewed, if you can believe Nielsen ratings.
Yeah.
It was one of our most, one of our higher viewed episodes that year. And then circling around the following year with some other people who produce outdoor TV, they're like, how'd that go? You sure you want to be doing that? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
If you knew how many times I don't kill anything, I'm going to have to film 100 hunts a year if they want me to get 13 kill episodes. But,
Yeah, you're right. You're paying them.
Yeah.
So, and you'd have to sell multiple buses in order to get a show on there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few reasons why these guys are together for this podcast. One is if you look over on our whiteboard there, our why, to promote self-guided public land hunting and create advocates for that cause, you guys seem to be doing the same thing. And then you guys knew each other from back when, I don't know, Napoleon was still leader of France or something.
We lived with each other.
Yeah.
Your couch is still in my house.
Yeah, that's good. It's a comfy couch.
Where was this at, in Iowa?
Yeah, Albia, Iowa in 2011.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like hunting industry relationships, like we go way back.
Oh,
I mean, 8 years now. Like that's just a long time in this space.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, yeah, we were both interns at Midwest Whitetail back in 2011. I think you had just finished up at Mizzou,
Yep.
and I was still in my master's program at NDSU. I had one online class, but I took the internship because I could be anywhere for that one. And we just happened to be both in Southern Iowa for a fall.
Yeah.
Yep.
I still live in the same house.
Really?
Yeah. We started renting this house in Albia to work for Winky at Midwest Whitetail. And me and Sam and our buddy Ben Koopman lived in that house that first year. And I still live there. And his couch is still there. And you had, at the time, we hadn't been on any elk hunts, any Western hunts or anything. I mean, we're early 20s, you know. So we had some deer mounted in the living room and stuff, and we were always talking about elk hunting. Sam was like, "Yep, I haven't shot an elk, and I haven't went, so I just bought this big poster of an elk, and I put it on the wall." So it's just like this. It was huge, 6-foot wide elk poster. And it's still in my home.
So the backstory on that poster is I worked at Shields All Sports in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
And I worked in the stock room, and every year they would re-up, banners and posters and whatever. And so to decorate my college house, they were throwing away this huge stack of old posters and whatever. And so I got like a pickup load of like display banners. I had one I got the elk one. I had this huge duck hunting photo. But yeah, my entire college house was just plastered with all of Shields' old display ads.
Yeah. And some more, well, I would say less than important information. Sam taught me how to cook eggs.
I did.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't know how to cook eggs when you were
No, I'm inept at a lot of things, Randy. Completely.
To the point where, my best purchase, in college, was an electric griddle, right? Freshman year. Yeah, you have to have one. Yeah. So I bought one my freshman year. Cooked, I have no idea, countless, dozens of eggs, French toast, pancakes, bacon, you name it, everything on it.
Yeah.
So I bring it down to Iowa, and I teach Warb how to make fried eggs. And, he's standing right there over my shoulder, and I'm like, all right, you just tap it on here and just crack, a little Pam on there, crack it on there, let them get to about this, flip them over. And then when I left, as a parting gift, I left my electric griddle back with him at the house. So
you still got that too?
No, I cooked so much on that griddle that I ruined it. See, I learned how to operate the microwave when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So every meal went through the microwave for about 15 years. And then Sam came along and I figured out how to use a griddle. So every meal went through the griddle for the next 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and eventually broke the griddle.
There's only so many meals you can get out of a $20 griddle.
Yeah. So, I got our money's worth, or your money's worth out of it. Yeah.
Wow. I guess I had a different childhood. When I was 13, my mom bought a little small town diner. And I was the backup cook, I was the A-team swamper of cleaning and stocking shelves, and I was the backup waiter and the backup, janitor. I was so.
So you know how to do all that stuff. Then.
Don't tell my wife.
I can't. The secret's safe with us and the 100,000 people that'll listen to this.
Full disclosure, my wife doesn't listen to the podcast, so I'm safe in saying that. And actually, my best friend in high school, her name was Teresa Hymans. She used to call me Cinderella because I'd be running around my mom's restaurant being told, "Randy, I need this, I need that." My mom couldn't afford to hire hardly anybody, so I'm like, well, I'm free labor, so I can cook an egg. I can cook a hamburger. I can even make homemade. I can make a lot of things, but boy, I try not to. I mean, being a really good cook is almost as bad as being really handy. Mm-hmm. And Sam, you built the school bus into a motorhome, so you're really handy.
He's pretty resourceful.
Yeah.
So you're screwed, man.
Yep.
I don't know how you're ever going to shake that.
I wonder how many times the line from the Red Green Show ran through my head when I was building the bus. Women don't find you handsome, at least they'll find you handy.
Yeah. Is Red... I
think he's still doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah. And I laughed so hard when that used to be on... It was a regular show for years and years, and I'm like, this guy... He had to be my neighbor Vance. He had to be. And when I saw your school bus, I thought about the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys both do a lot of promotion of public land stuff. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's interesting.
Aaron, you're from Iowa, or based out of Iowa. You're originally from
Missouri.
Is it Missouri or Missouri?
Yeah, the guys asked me that yesterday, and it's kind of just go with what you feel.
Yeah.
We don't
It kind of depends on where you live in the state, right?
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it does, to
I
a
was
certain
told
degree.
if you're south of of Interstate 70, it's Missouri. If you're north, it's Missouri.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably true, but we're kind of a lost band of rednecks in northeast Missouri. Like, we have our own
You were trying to get to Arkansas,
everything.
but you didn't make it.
Yeah,
Huh?
I don't. I belong somewhere in Tennessee or Kentucky or Arkansas.
First time I met Warb, I just remember being like, man, he must be from like really far south.
Yeah.
And I was like, where are you from? And he's like, oh, about whatever, like hour and a half from here. Like just across the border from Iowa.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was just really confused at how southern the accent was at first.
Like everybody makes fun of me about it on the show.
No, but then I met everybody like that around there, and everyone talks the exact same.
Yeah.
So that's just how it is.
Like my accent, it changes all the time, and I can't really explain it. But like if we go to a bar and I have 3 or 4 beers, it's going to get more southern every single beer.
My wife says when I go back to northern Minnesota, when I come back, I have a really strong Minnesota accent again. But when I go back there, my brother, he's got just like the thickest accent. It's like maple syrup in January. It's so thick. He's like, ever since you moved away, man, you got an accent. Okay. I need to get you on the podcast, and we'll ask my audience who has an accent there. But so, how does a guy from South Dakota and a guy from Iowa/Missouri get into public land hunting?
You go first.
I mean, really, like I grew up waterfowl hunting. Like that's all I did from we upland bird hunted until I was about 9, maybe 10. And then we started duck hunting and did nothing but duck hunt until I moved to Iowa for the big, for the Midwest Whitetail internship. So we hunted, kind of a mixture of public and private land. Knew a few landowners that during the best parts of the migration, they had, like the quintessential mallard slough that you could go back into. And, it's like cow pasture and then on this cattail slough, and then you just watch thousands of mallards come bombing in. But it wasn't until I got out west that I really realized like how much access there was to just endless acres of public land. So, I mean, my like experience was like, admittedly, I had no idea. I took it for granted, public land, private land, whatever, growing up, and then just moving west and seeing what everything has to offer out here just kind of blew me away. Yeah.
And so you decided to build a school bus.
Decided to build a school bus. Well,
drive around the country and promote the public land school bus and donate. You donate to, you sell. Sam, that's why you're still living in a school bus. All of his profits he donates to nonprofits. You become the nonprofit.
I know. I give it all away.
I mean, wasn't it Saturday or Friday?
Friday night. Yep.
I saw you gave a check to RMEF for $5,000 or something from your T-shirt sales.
Yeah, we've been saving up for them like over the course of the last 6 months in order to make a donation of that size to help with that Falls Creek project. So, so it was really like kind of what inspired me to turn the bus into a billboard was it was one of your videos helped a lot actually when you did that whole video voiceover video for the talking about land transfer and what that meant and basically like I have a master's in business, so I think of everything in like marketing so basically, federal government was marketing and packaging this really cool, like putting a really nice bow on this whole thing as a states' rights issue. Right. And so when you broke it all down and helped everyone understand that it's just basically a fast track to losing all of this land, something just stuck in me, and I just couldn't get over it. I was like, well, somebody's got to speak up about this. And like, I mean, I might as well be one voice, I mean, even if it doesn't go anywhere. But
you've went a lot of places with it, both figuratively and literally.
That's no doubt. Covered some miles over the past few years.
How many miles do you think you put on the bus? At what, 3 miles a gallon?
Yeah, it's a little better than that. Depends on the wind. So I was just telling.
It seriously does.
Yeah.
Roading this thing.
Yeah.
And it's a hot box, man, in the summertime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You got to be a hard ass to drive this bus.
So,
Well, I know that because growing up in northern Minnesota, when the schools would auction off the Bluebird school, I mean, Bluebird was the brand. It was like Cadillac of the buses. Is yours a Bluebird?
Sure is.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Everybody converted them into campers. It was crazy. So when you started doing that, I showed it to my wife, and she's like, "Is that somebody you know from Big Falls, the town I grew up in?" I'm like, "No, I just met this guy. Some people introduced me to him." So I'm sure people from the upper Midwest, everyone had a school bus parked out back with a drop. You needed about a 25-inch drop-down hitch to put your 16-foot Lund on the back. You couldn't even see it back there with the mirrors. And I say this from experience. Can I tell her really quick?
yes, you can.
So my mom has 6 brothers, and they're from 18 years older than me to my age.
Okay.
So her uncle Elton, who's recently passed from brain cancer, anyhow, he had a school bus, and he had his 16-foot Lund with his 30-horse Evinrude on the back. His next younger brother, Mike, they go up to Canada, and they're east of Fort Francis, Ontario. If you cross that International Falls, you go east, and there's a minnow station out there. Well, your bus doesn't have power steering, does it?
It does.
I'm
living the dream.
Uptown.
Oh man! So Elt's bus didn't have power steering, and how many gears does the yours have?
So it's an automatic transmission.
Oh my gosh, Sam, you are uptown, man.
Yeah. It's a 93. It's
this was in 1982. So this one had been retired. So it was probably a 68 school bus.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyhow, there's these rows of how you drive into the gas lines, and there's a Winnebago in front, and it breaks down. So Mike's got to back out of there, this school bus with no power steering. Well, a lot of people don't know what a phone booth is these days, but anyhow, there was a Canadian Bell phone booth back there, and Mike's got it hijacked or jackknife, not. Yeah. he has kind of hijacked the bus, but Mike's a bad driver anytime. But if you gave him the best vehicle, he's a bad driver. But now he's got the boat backed up where you're like an inch from the Canada Bell phone booth, and he can't go forward because of the Winnebago. And so he yells at everyone, "Get in the bus," and he turns the wheel the other way, and he just gives it hell, and he goes right through the lilac hedge. if you've ever seen northern Minnesota, no one puts up a fence. They grow a lilac hedge.
Right.
That's kind of the property boundary.
Yeah.
Goes through there, and as he goes through, the boat I wrote a story about this, and everyone who reads it just laughs their butt off. Anyhow, this is the abbreviated version. The boat, when the lilacs spring back, the boat is up higher. It's completely off the ground. And he drives through these people's lawns, takes out their clothesline and everything else.
He had enough.
But when you're driving a school bus, you got to be thinking ahead.
Yeah. There's a lot. In every moment, there's a lot of planning that has to go into it. Yeah, because you pull into the wrong gas station, and you're just going to have a bad time.
That happened to us when we were going to that campground in Arkansas. I whipped in there in my little Smurf,
Yeah.
This thing's the size of a golf cart. And I texting Sam the address, and I call him, and I'm like, he should be coming up the road with this thing anytime. And then I can hear it coming, And he's on the phone. He's like, I can't make that turn. I've got to go way down and turn around and come back. He's like, the only way I can get in there is if I'm coming from the north. It's like, I can't cross traffic like that in that little lane. And granted, he has the bus, and he's pulling side by side and everything behind it too.
Yeah.
So.
How many miles do you think you put on that thing?
So I have put. So I want to remind people that most of my miles is like I start in one spot and I drive to the next spot, and then I park and set up for 10 days or whatever.
Right.
So I have 25,000 miles I put on the bus in the last 2 years. Whew. So.
And that's not like riding in a fancy SUV Escalade or something. This is like riding a tractor for 25,000 miles.
I've described it several times now as like driving an 18,000-pound microwave that's running. So, and part of the reason I say that is because when I'm going up a hill, right, the engine starts to heat up. And so I have to there's a valve that I can open up with the spigot handles broken off, but I just pick it up off the side panel, and I'm driving, I reach down there and I open up this valve, and so then it pulls coolant, runs coolant through a longer line, and so it cools the engine down. But what that does is it forces air out from underneath this side panel, so it's like 180-degree heat just blowing on my calves. So like I was like, my calves at this point are two really good roasts. They've just been cooked for the last 2 years.
Hey man, gotta make it work.
That's right.
Gotta make it work.
And the prime guys, prime archery guys, a couple of them were riding with me on the way from Park City to Big Sky. And they were laughing because my temp gauge is broken, so it actually reads hotter than it's running. And so when I start to go up a hill, temp starts to go up, and then a light comes on and says check gauges, and then it starts beeping at me. So it's just this like beep, 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 and it drives me nuts, right? So, but I figured out that you can hit it if you hit the dash in a certain spot, you can shut that light off and turn the beeper off. So we're driving, we start going up the hill, and I just like smack the top of the dash, and the light goes off, and the beeping quits, and I just turned and smiled, and they lost it, And then every time from there on, I could if you like kind of punch the front of it, sometimes it'll go off, or if you tap the side the right way, it resets the gauge. And
once they get to a certain age, they develop personalities.
That's right.
Old vehicles.
Not that you guys, maybe you still remember, but we used to have an old great big CRT kind of TV. You had to go up there and tap it a little bit to get the Winnipeg channel to come in.
I do that all the time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So when you're saying that, it reminded me of that old RCA that my parents bought when we got a TV when I was 6 or 7, I think, something like that.
It always reminded me of the Fonz when he goes up and smacks the jukebox.
The
song comes on.
So for those younger, the Fonz, Arthur Fonzarelli from Happy Days.
Yep.
You got to go. I'm sure it's on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
The Fonz. Man, Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
You're going way back.
I know.
For being only, 31 or 32?
Yeah, he's aware of the classics.
Old soul,
Yeah, because Happy Days was on in the late 70s and early 80s.
And then when I was a kid, they had all the reruns on all the time.
So, okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I caught the whole series.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. So, Aaron, you don't have a school bus.
No, I just have a really shitty old car.
Yeah? How many miles does it have?
252,000.
Whoa. What is it?
It's a blue Ford Focus.
I hear about this a lot.
Yeah. It's been on a couple of T-shirts, actually.
A lot of times when I say that I bring your name up or something, they're like, does he really drive that car, or is that just part of his shtick? I'm like,
no.
I don't know. I think that's what he drives.
No, my dad split a car with me when I was 16. It's an Oldsmobile Alero. And I drove it around for a few years, and I eventually blew it up. And since it was partially his car, and by the time it blew up, I had bought myself a truck as well.
Oh, okay.
I was working at the local grocery store and saved up some money to buy a hunting truck. Well, I was driving his and my Oldsmobile Alero around, and I blew it up. And he said, well, I'm going to buy another car. He's like, you're going to buy it with me, but I'm going to decide which car we're going to get. And he said, and I'm going to the salvage yard to buy the next one. And he's like, the only thing you can decide is what type you want. You want like an SUV, you want a car, or what? And we weren't going to spend more than $4,000 on this thing. It was going to be less. Yeah. So I was like, I want a little car. I got a truck. I want a little gas getter. And he's like, okay, I'm going to surprise you. And he rolled up in this damn thing. And ever since then, I've been driving it. And
so I haven't, I haven't seen the Smurf since 2011. And so I left basically Fargo with the bus and drove, took a 3-day trip, made it down to Columbia, Missouri, and to meet up with Ward before we started our turkey tour this spring. And I roll in and we go out and hop in the Smurf and it's deteriorated a little bit since 2011. But we get in and it's pretty messy. And I go, haven't cleaned this thing for a while, huh? And he goes, not once.
Never been to a car wash, never one time.
No.
And I've only had it 11 years.
Yeah.
Only.
Yeah. But I drive it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's only has one window that works. The driver's door doesn't shut all the way because I got backed into by a utilities guy in Albia once.
Ooh.
So like the door kind of bends out. And in the winter, the exterior handle on the driver's side doesn't work. So you can't shut the driver's door all the way when you get out.
Yeah, only when you get out. When you're in there, you're fine.
When you're in there, the interior latch still works. So you can get out, but you can't get in. So you can't shut that door. Otherwise, you're pretty much screwed, especially if you don't have the keys with you. So the door is cracked all the time, even in the winter. And I left on a hunt. I was in Arizona hunting with you guys.
With us?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it snowed a bunch back home. So I got back home and there was like a foot of snow on the ground. And I looked in the Smurf and right in the driver's seat there's 18 inches of snow piled up that had been coming in. So I just opened the door and brushed it out and fired her up and took it home. Yeah. You got to climb. If you accidentally shut the door, that's why nobody borrows it.
Yeah.
Is because if they borrow it, it's like, okay, here's the list of things that you must do in order to get back wherever you're going. Get back from wherever you're going.
You know, you guys are not painting a picture of financial prosperity. That's gonna result in a lot of listeners saying, I want to go do that.
The public lands mission, and I think we're all kind of on that same boat. And yeah. When you prioritize that mission above everything else, including making money, you're gonna
drive a Smurf to 400,000 miles.
I hope. I'm trying to get to 300. Right now, it's in the shop. My buddy Jim's putting a wheel bearing in the left rear.
Yeah.
So
you just can't let Jake borrow it for too long anymore.
Yeah, it's not his fault either. Because he didn't realize that you got to rotate the tires like every 3,000 miles because the suspension and the camber's all worn out and like they cup real bad on the inside. So you got to rotate them constantly. Otherwise, you're only going to get like 8,000 miles out of the new tire.
Brand new Michelin tire gets 8,000 miles.
Luckily, it's a size of a golf cart. So replacing tires on this thing, you can get $80 for two of them.
Yeah, you stop at the Piggly Wiggly and they have them on the shelf in there that fit that size probably.
Yeah.
So Iowa and Missouri, how did you get into public land hunting, Aaron?
I grew up hunting public land and private land for whitetails and turkey in northeast Missouri. Like my whole family is deeply rooted in hunting. My uncles, my dad's best friends. Like I was in deer camp growing up constantly. That was just the lifestyle out there. I mean, we're from Paris, Missouri. It's like 900 people there. And that's pretty much all you do. I mean, you've rabbit hunt, you've hunt other types of small game, bird hunt, deer hunt, turkey hunt. So growing up, we hunted a fair amount of public and private because we have access to public land right there, pretty close. A good amount of it, Mark Twain Lake. And eventually I started to lose access to properties that I had permission to hunt. Like I've seen this happen firsthand over time, and this is why similar to Sam, like your mission, and you talking about access and how important it is to the future of hunting. I've seen that issue happen firsthand throughout my life. Like we had properties that we hunted on. The property that I harvested my first buck with a bow on, and then my uncles hunted clear back into the 70s, we've recently lost in the last 10 years, and
because someone sold it or it got leased,
variety
or whatever it might be.
I mean, it's leased now, but that's one of many reasons. Basically, when I was a kid, there was more people hunting locally, and there was more places to go.
Yeah.
And now there's fewer people hunting locally, and there's less places to go. And I'm like, that's all me and my local buddies ever complained about as we got older. It's like, well, where are we going to go? You know, all we had was public land eventually. Mm-hmm. So we made that work, and it was awesome. You know, I mean, it was great. We all had this sort of stigma about it, like, oh, you don't want to go out there with all those people and all that stuff. Well, once we started doing that when we were kids, it wasn't a big deal. You just adapt and, you know, learn to deal with it. But then once I got into the hunting industry a little bit, I could see after talking to people from kind of all over the country that everybody's going through that. Not just us in little town Paris, Missouri.
Right.
But I was talking to people in Pennsylvania and in Connecticut and in Alabama that were saying, like, yeah, we just don't have the hunting anymore. We don't have the places to go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we started the hunting public. I mean, that was the founding mission. It's like, hey, we got to show people that you can go out on public land, you can have a good experience, because that's all the next generation of hunters may have if we continue down this path. I mean, I'm not just blaming people that lease or nothing like that.
It's development.
It's urbanization. It's all these different factors. And as everything, hunting is going to change. You know, we're going to have to adapt to it. So we figured that we might as well show people that you can do it on public land. And another big part of it, and my friend Scott Vance, who used to work for the National Wild Turkey Federation, he was their VP of Hunting Heritage. He's the CEO of Union Sportsman's Alliance now.
Okay.
But he's a mentor of mine, and he used to talk to me about the statistics for hunter recruitment.
Yep.
And they did a lot of heavy research back in the day at NWTF about why we were losing participation and why we weren't regenerating new hunters. And from all of our conversations that we had over the years, one of the number one reasons is the loss of the social aspect of hunting, especially in like whitetail hunting.
Yeah.
You know, watch whitetail hunting culture in like the last 20 years. It's just become sort of this solo thing where it's driven by antlers and age of bucks. It's becoming more and more competitive all the time. And that's not, you know, inclusive.
Right.
That's exclusive.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to get back to showing people the whole deer camp atmosphere, because that's where our mind went. It's like, well, when was the most fun you had when you were hunting? It was when we were a kid at deer camp.
Yeah.
Like, why the hell don't we just do that again?
Yeah.
And like show people how much fun you can have doing that.
And you've been doing a great job at that.
Yeah. I mean,
I think
it's not hard to have fun.
No, it's not. I mean, and you guys have a great time with it. But like, I mean, I think just the fact that, you know, even if it's just two of you in the tree, like when you have a successful hunt, the entire crew is there to help at the end and share the whole story, share the whole experience in the field. It's not like you're, you know, two of you are just bringing that buck back to camp and then talking about it. Like it's like families and, you know, like everyone's out there looking for the deer or, you know, whatever it might be and helping haul it out. And it's really cool to watch all that stuff.
When did you guys start, Aaron? Was it 17 or 16?
Yeah, September of 17.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I still remember to this day, I'm driving down the Interstate 80 just outside of Elko, Nevada, and my phone rings and it's you.
Yeah.
And Michael, who works for us, knows both you guys, and that's really how I got to know you guys real well. I think Michael had given you my information, and you're talking to me that you have this idea, but I'm not sure why you felt calling me was worth anything. But I remember after the call, I'm like, man, as lucky as we've been to leverage the public land message in Western hunting, our audience, just in terms of demographics of number of hunters, is a fraction of what the whitetail world is. And I'm thinking, man, if someone pulls this off in the whitetail world, it is going to be really, really popular. And you guys have done it.
Oh, we're trying. We've got some pretty high goals in the next 20 years, but ultimately and I think we all share the same goal here. You know, it's not just ours. Ultimately, we're trying to shape hunting culture in a positive direction, you know, for the rest of our lives and into the next generation. Like, that's what gets me up every day, is that's the direction we want to go. And I feel like if you're if you're not contributing to that in a positive way, you need to rethink what you're doing. If you're lucky enough, that's kind of the way we thought about it. If you're lucky enough to be in outdoor media and love hunting like we do, then you better be doing right by the people that are watching it. You better be making content for them.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it doesn't become a job at that point.
Right.
You know,
and you guys have proven my model works to produce a lot of media and make no money. People ask me, like, the three of us were up at Big Sky this weekend in Big Sky, Montana, Total Archery Challenge, and a lot of people will say, "Well, it must be nice to make a lot of money hunting all the time." I'm like, well, there's a reason I still do tax returns.
you got to give something up. In this business you do. That's what I tell a lot of folks, like, because you get that question all the time. It's like, how do we do what you guys do, or how do we get a job in the hunting industry? Well, I'll be honest with you, it depends on what your goals are. Like, my goal was to do the only thing that I was ever good at, and to just do the only thing that I really ever enjoyed, like was hunt. I wasn't motivated by money.
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, you look at it, we're talking about the Smurf over here. I mean, it's $500 car. So, and that's it. That's kind of the sacrifice that we've made anyway. It's like we get to do what we love all the time, every day. We get to hunt all over the place in all these cool public areas and get to share it with people, family, and friends. But, we're not going to get that brand new speedboat anytime soon.
No,
that's just part of it.
My advice to anyone who asks that same question is don't quit your day job.
No, that's right.
Or be in a unique situation where you don't need the money. But I've not met any people yet who didn't need some money. Maybe there's a way out around needing money, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
And for what I do, like the bus is, it's a good tool to create awareness about all the public land stuff, but like my main source of income is still photography.
Yeah.
I've been do it, I was started freelance photography back in 2011, basically was kind of the start of it, but really late 2012. And I was beyond broke for like almost 3 years until I caught a break and got, hired for the right job, and then just started to create the network to build up enough clientele where I was shooting enough photos to make some money. And then I spent all of it on building the school bus out and traveling around the country. But I think it's important for people to realize that the three of us here have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
Like, we're not just...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just...
anyone who thinks it's just, I'm going to go hunt and someone's going to film it and I'm going to sit around and count the money has no idea how many hours a day you guys and all of us are working for every little bit. It's just this, you show up every day and here's the plan. And I got to just keep working the plan day by day by day. And every once in a while you kind of pull your head up and look around like, all right, we've made a little progress.
Yeah. And that's, and I like, none of us are complaining about what we do.
No.
But I think, for people,
just
for people
realistic
trying to,
expectations if you're getting into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's it's important to manage those expectations.
Yeah, you got to be creative about it. I mean, we have a variety of different revenue streams, none of which are particularly large, but we do have a variety of
and that's what it takes.
Income streams.
Yep.
And that's why we're able to do it. If we were just making money from one thing, from YouTube, for example, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's... for me, anyhow, and I say this all the time, and every once in a while I get flack over it, but 32 years in the CPA world, and then simultaneously I'm entering my 12th year doing this. I think about where else in the world could a snotty-nosed punk grow up in a little logging town of 500 people up in the northern bush of Minnesota and end up with a life like I have right now.
Yeah.
Only in America could you sit down somewhere and scratch out an idea and somehow make it work.
Yeah.
And like both you said, I didn't do this. There's nothing in our why about making a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. If I make some money at this, my wife's going to be really happy.
Right.
Because every year, her and I sit down and kind of have the State of the Union meeting.
That's right.
And the good part is, I think 2014 was the last time we had to infuse any cash into here. But she's not got any of it back either. Yeah. She reminds me, if we would have put this in our portfolio, here's what that would have grown to. Or her other thing is, look, you're a CPA. Would you have advised your client to keep doing this? That's the one where she knows she gets me.
Yeah.
But the point of it is, I get up every day, and I think you just said it, Aaron. Every day I get up, I'm excited to do what we do.
Yeah.
And are we making a difference, in the collective world of outdoor media? I hope we are. However small that might be. And as you were talking, I'd be interested, Sam, in your background in South Dakota. Have you seen loss of hunting places the way Aaron was describing?
Absolutely.
Missouri?
Yeah. So, in South Dakota, a lot of it is, so there's been a couple of good things that have happened and a couple South Dakota's pheasant capital of the world, right? So I've seen it much more on the pheasant side of things, where outfitters and, people from out of state or whatever, they're leasing up ground for pheasant hunting, and good on them, if you can pay for that, whatever. Right. But it used to be a lot more accessible, just knocking on doors. And I think that's nationwide, where, companies like real estate companies and stuff have showed the value of a hunting property. And so whether or not you're selling it, people know that if somebody wants to come hunt on their land, they can put a price on it.
Right. There's a value
and that's just
there.
Capitalism, right? That's the world we live in. So whatever, people can do that.
It's also the reason that we can do what we do,
right?
So, there's two sides of it. But what we always are looking at is, from the recruitment side, is how many barriers do they have to leap over to get into hunting? Like a kid can go to school, and if he wants to play baseball in the 5th grade or t-ball or whatever it is, you can usually find a way, a program, something, a way to get them involved in that.
Yep.
With hunting, it's a lot
different.
Way more hurdles.
Yeah, you have and I feel like as an industry, we've created more and more of these barriers, and they're getting higher and higher, and that's one reason why the recruitment is in bad shape in a lot of places.
And some good things that I've seen in South Dakota included, they've lowered the starting age of hunting. I think I'm pretty sure they eliminated the starting age, but then obviously you have to be with a mentor up to a certain point. And then my mom is a state senator in South Dakota, so I get to hear all the back end of all this cool stuff that's going on in the the world of the game fishing parks there. So, so that was cool. That was lowering one hurdle. And, another thing that they've done in order to kind of protect the quality of the hunt for people in South Dakota is, if you want to duck hunt in South Dakota as a non-resident, you have to apply for the waterfowl license.
Oh, wow.
So where most places it's over the counter and people follow the migration, you got to apply every year. And, most of the time you apply, you're going to get the tag. But what that has done is it has kept a lot of ground that would have probably been leased up for, guides and outfitters during the migration. All that land's still open because they can't guarantee a number of clients and and who's going to draw tags.
Or someone from out of state isn't going to pay a big lease fee because it's what if I don't draw my tag?
Yep.
I just obligated myself to this landowner and I don't get to use it this year.
And I've been on both sides of it. So obviously grew up in South Dakota, but now I'm a non-resident. And I every year when the survey comes out for did you duck hunt here? Or did you big game hunt here? Every year I say, thank you for continuing to protect the quality of the hunt in the waterfowl space. It's the best thing, that South Dakota still has, because then you're not fighting with people,
Yeah.
So, But
well, in Montana here, and I can only speak for the 28 years that I've lived here, we're seeing the trends that you guys mentioned. Another thing we're seeing out here in the West is it's almost as if you aren't somebody in the upper echelon of billionaires if you don't own a huge ranch. And those people have very high tolerance for wildlife, which on that side is good.
Yeah.
But they have zero tolerance for hunting or just anyone on their property. So you end up with these sanctuaries where all these deer and elk end up on properties that just they're not going to let anyone hunt. I bought this 40,000 acres and it's mine, and
that's that.
And so there's 40,000 acres that, you know, maybe even the former owner only let family and friends or the guy who comes out and fixes his tractor or whatever. That was still maybe 12, 15, 20 people who were hunting his place. Well, now they've lost that.
Yeah.
And they're on the public land. And this is happening so many places that the public land is feeling more and more crowded because of what we've lost for access on a lot of the private lands. And to your point, Aaron, when we built our business plan in 2008, there's a study from the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and it then got updated in 2010 or 11, I believe, and it surveyed, I don't know how many people, a huge number, of what was the reason you either quit hunting or you didn't hunt as much as you previously did, or you came from a hunting culture or family or environment, but you did not hunt. There was a multitude of reasons, but for every one of those groups in both the original survey and the updated survey, access, a place to hunt, was the number one reason for people not doing that. And I get a lot of heat out west because people are like, well, I'm not seeing less people.
Right.
And they aren't, because the public lands are becoming, like you said, Aaron, the place where people have to go.
We're trying to protect them from, transfer and stuff out here. We're not adding more.
Right.
In many cases. And like, that's what needs to that's what needs to happen long term. I guess that's what I'm thinking about, like 30 years down the road. Like, yes, I want to do everything that we can to protect what we've got right now and to show people you can still have positive experiences out there. But I would like for us as a hunting community to reach a little higher at some point than that even. And like, let's get to a point where we can come up with more of these land access programs where we can add areas, because I'm in Iowa and it is like bottom of the barrel as far as amount of public land there is.
Yeah.
And if you go to the local high school there in Albia where I'm from, you're not going to see very many hunters.
Really?
And those are the people that live there. And this is the whitetail capital of the world, quote unquote.
Right.
Not many people. So a lot of the kids aren't into hunting?
No.
In rural
hunter recruitment has went down and I could be wrong on this, but I think last I checked it went down like every year for the last 7 years in Iowa.
Wow. That's not good.
No, it's not.
It's not. And they have to have a place to go. And if you're a landowner, the way that I think about this, because we are landowners as well in Missouri. My grandpa he bought a farm in the 70s that my dad lives on now. It's a little over 100 acres. But the way I look at this is it's like, if you love to deer hunt and you've got deer on your property, for example, go out and harvest you a deer, whatever. But don't get to the point where you're so greedy about the deer that you try to shelter them from everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, let a kid go out there every once in a while. I get the laws and things, like in the risk with liability and that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a deer, if you're a whitetail hunter and you have 5,000 acres all to yourself, you have more than enough deer to hunt.
Your cup runneth over.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And yes, I'm proud of you that you've got that land. That's what you wanted to get or whatever, and you want to harvest a mature buck. I get it. But, there's going to come a time when you're going to have to reciprocate and give back to the community that you live in some way, shape, or form, because that's really it. I mean, a lot of those kids, there's no such thing as door knocking anymore. And a 14-year-old kid can't go up to a farmer and ask them to go deer hunting because it's money.
Yeah.
They can go to public land.
Right. If they can find a way to get there.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's some cool things happening. And I think all three of us here probably have thought about this time and time again, the lofty goals of figuring out ways to add more public land, and all three of us today have a meeting at separate times with OnX Maps.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, OnX Maps is doing really cool things where they've been able to see how much landlocked property there is that exists. And now they're working with conservation organizations to help figure out ways to add easements to those lands. So there's, step one. And then there's several states in the right in the middle of the country, and then even some in Montana, but increasing those basically public access to private land. So, in Montana, it's the block management land. North Dakota, they have the PLOTS program, which is public access. I don't even know what it stands for now. Anyway, PLOTS program, South Dakota's
public lands open to sports.
There it is. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah,
took me a while.
Yeah. A lot of states are doing that, and it's good.
Yep, and there's states doing that. So I think like a couple of the next frontiers are, one, figuring out ways to add way more easements to all of these landlocked pieces that we already own or should be open, and then adding access to private land. And I think as more and more states kind of gravitate towards that, I think we'll see a shift in hunter recruitment, I would hope anyway, because then you don't have to travel an hour to go hunt, like a state park or a state forest or whatever. You can go right down the road and get onto a piece of ground. And I think, the hunting public has done a good job of showing that it really doesn't matter where you live in the country. Like if you do a little research, there's going to be something that's not that far away.
And that is the advantage of whitetail hunting. Like to whitetail hunt effectively, you don't need a ton of land to do it on. You can do it on some relatively small public areas. And most folks have those locally at their disposal somewhere, well, not at their disposal, but they have access to them. So they just, like to your point, they just have to find them and then go out there and set realistic expectations.
Yeah. And maybe down the road we figure out ways where, crowdsourcing has become such a big thing. Maybe we figure out ways to work together, not only with the hunting community, but the fishing community and the outdoors community, and figure out ways to crowdsource, purchasing properties that are along the edge of existing public lands or new public lands or whatever, and be able to turn that back over so everybody can use it. So
the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, their most recent data that they put out for, I think it's 4/18. It's an interesting map of where there's hunting numbers are stable and where hunting numbers are falling off the map. In the Western and Rocky Mountain states, hunting numbers are stable or slightly increasing. The West Coast states, they're dropping. The Midwest, the Northeast are just going...
just falling off.
Yeah, and the total numbers, the slight increases you're seeing in resident license sales in the West, the number of hunters is so small relative to Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, that when those states are having 5-8% drops over a 5-year period, the total number of hunters is just declining. And to the people in the West, it may not feel that way. Whereas people in the Midwest or the East might be like...
a lot of them don't feel that way either, and that's why discussing these numbers is such a big deal. And I don't blame folks for thinking like that. I mean, you're in control of your life, and you have your perspective. Everybody does.
Right.
And they're going out to their same public area that they've been hunting for years, and they're still seeing people, and now they're seeing even more people because we're bringing, more overall attention to public lands. So there's more people that are going and hunting public lands. So they would disagree with me on a lot of points that I make about like the hunter numbers are dropping. They're like, no, not on my spot, not out here. And like, yes, they are. If you look at the overall pie.
Yeah.
And I don't think everybody understands what that means in 15, 20 years.
Right.
Like if you lose your foothold with the numbers that we have, you don't have a voice when it comes to policy.
Yeah. Right.
Zero.
And I was recently talking about some like streaming apps and that sort of thing, because in the outdoor world, we a lot of video is going digital, obviously. I mean, that's where we all have all our stuff is digital media, but a lot of it is going to these streaming platforms, and some of them are custom built, through the outdoor industry, and they do that, and they're one of their main reasons is because they're afraid that YouTube is going to censor all of the hunting content,
right?
Or Instagram is going to censor all the hunting content, because it does happen.
Sure.
In Facebook, it's the same thing. But I guess my argument to them is like, guys, I understand that you want to have a boat for us to float in should the Titanic sink.
Yeah.
But if it does and we lose access to these main communication platforms in society, we're going to be in a bad way.
We're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to listen to us on our little deer hunting video app over here.
Yeah.
Like, yes, our existing group can still watch deer hunting videos there.
Yeah. But it's way too small.
Yeah, it's way too small. We just become a special interest group that's real tiny at that point. Like, if we're kicked off of these major communication platforms, for better or worse, social media's obviously got a lot of disadvantages to it. But that's how the world runs now.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we communicate.
No, I think for us to have relevance, and this is just from my time of going to Washington, D.C. and places and having conversations with elected officials and policymakers. If you don't have some critical mass, your relevance, there's a direct correlation to what percent of society you represent, whether it's in your state or nationally, and how much attention you can get from others who are making the policy. They may not come from your background. They may not even understand how hunting works, how conservation is funded. But if you can show up and say, I represent 225,000 members of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, they're like, whoa.
Right.
I better listen to you.
Yeah,
that's what
many
they think.
people who come in here who represent a group of almost 250,000 people. Now, if you show up and say, we used to have 225,000, we're down to about 80,000 now. They're like, yeah, leave me your card. I got a meeting to go to.
Right.
And
you just become less of a priority to them.
And I think the same with these platforms you're talking about, Aaron. I would hate to see hunters almost feel like we got to circle the wagons so tightly that we almost fulfill the prophecy that we end up getting booted from platforms.
Yeah.
And part of that goes back to messaging. You talk to anybody in the hunting space, just about, and whether they're producing it or whether they're consuming it, how many people criticize what the message of hunting is?
Yeah.
Well, part of the problem, if we want acceptance and the access to big platforms that are searchable, that are, Google and YouTube are the two largest search engines in the world by so far. It's not even worth comparing the others. If we think our messages are all screwed up and everyone says that, then what are we doing about that?
Yeah.
Because if we keep trying to have a screwed up message that goes on those platforms, that's a big part of why a lot of those platforms might censor something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about food, never get any.
Exactly.
I guess one time on Instagram, I was in Alaska boning out a bear. And looking at the image, maybe I could have picked a little bit better image. And there I am with a knife. But it was about prepping this wild harvest to something I'm going to use at the table. And so, it was sensitive content. Actually, for me anymore, if something on Instagram has the little cross through it that says it's sensitive,
you get way more
people
look
exactly. I purposefully look at everything that says sensitive content because I want to see what it is that was supposedly so sensitive.
It was like the photo that I shot of Rogan holding that big moose quarter over his shoulder. I think I posted it last spring. It was like had been 3 years since that magazine cover had come out. And I was like, it's just fun to look back and see all this. And I reposted that photo, and it almost immediately got censored. But it was by far and away the most looked at and most engagement on a photo I'd ever posted.
We need to learn how to communicate better in the future, just as a culture and society of hunters, because that's really what it's about. You need to also understand the other side's perspective, and I feel like a lot of folks don't do that well.
Yeah.
And remember, you just said Google, YouTube, monstrous platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. These are global platforms.
Yeah.
Like they have to set policy. And I'm not saying that I agree with everything they do. I disagree with them on a daily basis. They drive me nuts.
Yeah,
but
me too.
On the flip side of the coin, they have to set policy for not only us, but for people in China or India or religions in Russia or wherever it is. You know, I mean, they have to monitor this thing on a global sense. Yeah. So if something pops up like that gets flagged, it's not because Instagram hates you as a hunter. It's probably because it got flagged in one of their weird, crazy algorithms where they've got a policy infringement. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We just got to keep in mind, like, we're communicating to the entire world when we post that stuff on there. Right. Not so much, I mean, obviously our friends and those that know us in our group, but it's the whole world. And that's why it's such a big deal. Like YouTube and Google, on the flip side, every new kid that comes into hunting gets on their phone and says how to buy a bow, how to shoot a deer, how to clean a deer. And they do it on Google. And if you don't have hunting on Google and YouTube, where are they?
Yeah.
Where do you find all that?
I get people, you guys probably get it too, say, I'm not watching YouTube. I'm not going to support Google. I'm not going to support Amazon. I'm like, well, that's fine. Knock yourself out. But I want to reach millions and millions of hunters who are out there, and they don't have a TV package. They're consuming this digitally, whether it's on a phone, a desktop, a smart TV, whatever. I want to reach them. And until some supposed savior comes and builds the next Google and is sitting on $100 billion of cash on their balance sheet, well, let me know when that happens, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. So
it's not.
So you guys do a lot of turkey hunting.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to have to come turkey hunting with you guys someday and take lessons, because I'm the world's worst turkey hunter. You could, if you searched all of North America, you might be able to find someone who's a worse turkey hunter than me, but it's unlikely. I think I would have the traveling failure.
Have you ever hunted with my dad?
I've not, Aaron. I have not. But I've shot 2 turkeys in my life. One of them was after 7 days of calling in eastern Montana. It was the last morning. I'd given up, and I'm walking up. I'd called towards this turkey, and he didn't show up, so I start walking up the trail, and he and I meet at the crest of the knob, and I poleaxed him. He took off. He started running, and I put a lead on him and just rolled him.
Nice.
And then the other one, I was deer hunting, and I'm sitting in a blind, actually, as much as I hate that, and I hear this thought it was raining. Here's turkeys crapping all over. I didn't know my blind was right underneath a roosting tree, and they all come down. And all I have is my 270, and they're like 5-6 yards out in front of me. I'm like, all right, I have a turkey tag. Tomorrow, bringing my shotgun also.
Yeah.
Same thing happened, and this dude comes walking by, man. I completely slickered him. He had it was not good. So those are my 2 turkeys that I've harvested, and I watch you guys go and have all this fun traveling everywhere, doing all this turkey hunting, and that's why I leave it on our crew to Marcus and Michael,
Well, we just need to get a hunt on the books for next spring.
Turkey hunting is fun, man.
It's so much fun.
It's no stress.
Yeah.
Well, I put some stress on it because I take it way too seriously.
I mean, there were definitely some days this spring where I looked not very astute in the turkey woods.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I missed a few birds.
With your bow or with a shotgun?
Shotgun.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, they're tough in places. They're real tough.
The worst was I had a couple tags in my pocket, and it was one of the last days of hunting, and these 2 toms line up perfect. But in order to get a shot on them, I was facing one way, and I had to swing over and shoot them. They were like 10 yards. Well, at 10 yards, my pattern is like shooting a golf ball at the end of my shotgun.
Yeah.
And I missed.
It happens, man.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Shooting a shifty little bobbing head through the woods, it's tougher than you think.
And then you talk to my dad. I took him turkey hunting, and this bird comes in, and he's going to walk right into the decoy. And he goes, I'm up taking photos, and he goes, can I shoot him? And I go, yeah. And I didn't even get the full word out, and boom, and he just dusts this thing. And I go, where'd you aim? And he goes, center mass.
Oh, no. Had to pick a few pellets out of that.
A little bit, but
happens. They are tasty.
Yes, they are. But yeah, we got to get a turkey hunt on the books for next year.
All right. Well, is it after April 15th?
Yeah, that's when it starts getting good.
Yeah, we hunt them for 3 months.
Yeah.
Stupid things.
Really?
Yeah, March, April, May.
Mm-hmm.
We quit right around the 1st of June.
Where does it open in March?
It opens down south.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose.
Mississippi, Alabama. It opens in February in Florida.
February.
Yeah, February 25th or something like that in Florida.
Yeah. Wow.
Hunt Osceola's down there.
But I suppose after April 15, you're chasing bears.
Yeah,
Usually.
the bears usually.
Yeah. Well, we can get you out on like a 3-day
hot
hunt, you know? Yeah. That early season bear stuff, a lot of times it's too cold anyway.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And I'm no good at that either. So I'm only a slightly better spring bear hunter than I am a spring turkey hunter. So I think I'm just so out of practice in the spring that I just, good thing elk season isn't in the spring because I've been driving a desk too much by that time. But
yeah.
So as guys that do what you do, is there any place you've either been to, because you guys have both photographed and filmed a lot, or that you want to go to that is like someday I want to go do that for whatever reason, whether it's the adventure, whether it's the mystique of the location or the species or anything like that? You got?
I've always had interest in, I don't really have a desire to go brown bear hunting, but I've after hearing about the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia, just the bears and the fishing and the everything that had like the moose and the whole thing. Like I would love to go on a moose hunt over on the Kamchatka.
Yeah.
It just seems, I don't know, just seems like Alaska's pretty wild, and that seems even crazier. You know, you get on those giant helicopters and they fly in, and I mean, just getting to the location seems like a crazy adventure. So yeah.
The guys I talked to who've done that, they said there's usually 2 mechanics flying with those Russian helicopters.
You feel real safe.
Like, how many mechanics you need to keep this thing in the air? Real-time mechanicking is not something I really want to be a part of. But,
especially on a helicopter.
Yeah. But Kamchatka does have, bears and moose. It's very similar to Alaska as far as the species and stuff like that. Just as wild as wild gets, so...
That'd be cool.
Well, you know what? I shouldn't say it on the podcast. I'm going to do it anyway. You know what helicopters run on, right? It's called PFM. Pure magic.
Editors know.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh,
you can bleep that out.
Yeah, Joe's a great editor. He'll take care of that. But you got anything? Is it? Would it be whitetail or would it be something else?
No, it'd be elk. Mine's not nearly as exciting as Sam's, but I've archery hunted elk a couple of times. I've been on archery elk hunts early season when they're bugling, and that's my thing.
Yeah.
Like that's the peak of the mountain for me. I've hunted lots of things all over the country in dozens of states, but like if I can get on an early archery bull hunt of some kind, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
There's lots of states that I haven't hunted out here yet, so.
Well, we got tags in Montana.
Yeah. You're going to see me up here real soon.
All right.
Yep.
Well,
real soon.
Just want to let you know that we got llamas, we got everything.
Yeah.
Pretty much just show up with your bow and
good to go.
You can. It's so easy in Montana. You can kind of pick what day you just notch your tag in advance.
Oh, okay.
September 12th.
The BS meter's going up. Everything was sounding good at first. Now I can kind of see through it. I know that's not true.
No, for me, I'm going to do my dream hunt in September. Since I was a little kid, I wanted to do mountain caribou, and I'm finally going to do it. And
good for you. Where are you going?
Right on the British Columbia-Yukon border, but on the British Columbia side with Dustin Rowe. And I can't really tell you where this seed or why the seed got. I know when it happened. I remember reading an article in my junior high library because I couldn't afford hunting magazines, but the library had them, so I'd go read them there. And
someone wrote a story about northern British Columbia mountain caribou, and I always thought, man, that would be the pinnacle if ever I could go do that. And so now that I'm going to go do it, my mind's already thinking about, all right, if dream hunt or whatever you want to call it is off the list, then what am I going to do? And my mind's already thinking about kind of retracing steps of what I've done for the last 30 years of hunting multiple states across the West. And there's still so many cool things in the lower 48 that I want to go do that I've never killed the Coues deer.
Yeah. And you might never, ever, if you keep bow hunting.
So what I did this year, Aaron, I applied for a rifle tag.
Boom.
Yeah. November, I'm going to be down there with a rifle tag.
Yeah.
But the list of things, like there's parts of New Mexico that I see so many black bears when I'm elk hunting. I'm like, how cool would it be to come and hunt black bears in the Pinions? And there's a walk-in area in Kansas that I hunted 3 years in a row. And I haven't been back there now since the really bad drought of 2011, 12, and 13. And it's like, I got to get back there. And I want to go back to my home stomping grounds of northern Minnesota, even though the deer numbers are really in the crapper back there. But back to your point of hunting cultures, everybody in our little town of Big Falls has a hunting shack or a hunting camp.
Right.
And it might only be 10 miles from town.
Right.
But the whole family in deer season goes and stays at the shack. Yeah. Oh, that's the Ferguson shack. Oh, that's the Gustafson shack. Oh, that's the whatever shack. Yep. And so one of the things is each evening you'd kind of, let's all meet over at whoever's shack. And the culture of all that I miss. So every November when it's deer season, I call my brother and he tells me what's going on. It's like, dang it, I got to get back there. And so
it's relaxing. That's what hunting is built. That's what like whitetail hunting is built on.
Yeah.
That's what all those numbers were built on back in the day.
Yeah. And I guess if there is one little island of where that still exists, it certainly still exists in
Wisconsin,
far northern Minnesota,
Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's those kind of things now that, oh gosh, last time I had an antelope tag in Nevada, I feel like I almost hurried it. I want to go there and just milk it for everything and hunt the whole season. The last day I'll shoot whatever happens to be there. So the multitude of things now that I'm looking forward to after I get this one out of the way is probably to some people might seem bland or rather pedestrian, but for me, I'm already excited about going back and doing those things over the counter elk in Colorado. Like if you go to Western Colorado in the rifle season, then you pull into Delta or Hotchkiss or Montrose or Craig or Rifle, any of those towns, every sign is welcome hunters, every restaurant, every bar, every gas station, and it's just, I don't know, maybe as you get older, maybe you have more of a nostalgia sentiment to you, but I just love going to those little places where you plop down at the restaurant and get a burger after dark, and they're like, "Get your elk," It's like this person doesn't even know me, but they know I'm here hunting and they want to talk hunting.
That's the same thing where we were at fly fishing yesterday. Up on that Madison River. What is that? Ennis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's a fly shop town.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's people fishing the river everywhere, and it makes it tougher to get on fish.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the culture is just so rich there with fly fishing. So you go downtown and you're talking to everybody in these fly shops, and they're all jacked up about going fly fishing, and you're learning stuff from this guy, and you're learning about rods from this guy, and it's the whole experience. It's not just catching a fish.
Right.
Yeah.
It's being in that culture. That's what gets you hooked.
Yeah.
The Ennis people are going to hate me for the fact that I let it be promoted on a podcast.
We didn't catch anything. So
okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then the day before big game season opens in Montana, Ennis hosts a Hunters Festival or something, and they got a badass chili cook-off there, and I'm a chili nut, man. I every restaurant I go to, if there's chili on the menu, I'm trying it, and so I've kind of cruise down there. It's only 60 miles away just to participate in the GI part of the chili problems that might show up. But it's fun to go to those little places. I mean, I've been to South Dakota during pheasant season, and it's a lot of that same thing.
Yeah. Well, I think, at its peak, it was for opening weekend, it was like 60,000 hunters flew into just the Sioux Falls airport.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Massive numbers.
Huh.
Yeah.
There's got to be a lot of local merchants who are smiling about that.
Yeah.
You need to go turkey hunting in the southeast.
Is it
at
like
some
that?
point?
Is it like that down there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what it is. In opening week of turkey season, it's like everybody, and it's tough. It's like the toughest turkey hunting that I've ever experienced is those states down in the southeast. But that's because it's different. They do care about deer hunting down there, but when it's turkey season, if you're a hunter, everybody is turkey hunting.
Huh.
So we launched 3 turkey designs this spring through Public Land Tees, and most of the time, like with all our shirt designs, we'd ship to Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, the West, and then Minnesota, like really loves buying shirts from me, which is great. Thank you, Minnesota. But we launched these 3 turkey designs, and it was like Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, North Carolina. I mean, everything went to the southeast.
Huh.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, if I'm already a bad turkey hunter, everyone tells me Montana turkeys are as dumb as they get. So I wouldn't. I'd be completely screwed down in the southeast from what you're telling me.
Right? We usually are when we go down there. It's still fun.
You just follow Warb around for a few days, and then you can talk turkey, and then you'll be fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, all right. You guys might have talked me into it, but Marcus and Michael are going to say, well, why would you go with them and not with us?
Hey, they can come too.
Hell yeah, they can come too.
It's true. So, Sam, you sell the T-shirts, and when we talked about the $5,000 check you just gave to RMEF on Friday, that came from the sale of T-shirts.
Came from the sale of T-shirts. So, we do $5 from every single item that's sold on our website goes back to different conservation organizations.
Okay.
So, was in conversation with RMEF about this Falls Creek project here in Montana.
Right.
And I know that they just secured all the funding for it, but part of that was matched donations from RMEF.
Right.
And so we were just happy to be able to kind of alleviate some of that. I mean, even if it's a drop in the bucket at this point, but alleviate some of that portion that RMEF had to put in, and $5,000 going towards purchasing a property that opens up 26,000 acres of public.
Yeah.
So, and the last 3 donations that we've made have gone to projects just like that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
how can they buy a T-shirt?
You can buy a T-shirt right online, just publiclandtees.com.
Like Public Land?
Publiclandtees.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or just Google Sam Soholt.
That's right.
And you'll fill up like 300
There's a few pages now
Google
out there.
Yeah. Well,
that's awesome.
One thing people probably don't understand is that $5,000 to the Elk Foundation, the way they leverage that money, that becomes more like $30,000.
Right. Yeah.
Because of how they're able to find partnerships and matching money. They have people in Missoula that are just geniuses at this stuff. They're like, oh, well, there's this program and there's this, and we've got this former, whatever has offered this if we could raise that. And so people don't realize how far their money goes with not, and I say RMEF, but a lot of the conservation groups have kind of figured out how to make that work. And that's how RMEF has been able to open up or improve 1.2 million acres of hunting.
That's right.
I say hunting access, but it's access for anybody.
Right.
And the funny part is, when I sat on the board of the Elk Foundation for 6 years, I just termed out. They have term limits, and I'm sure they're thankful. In my case, it's like, we don't got to throw him off here. He'll be termed out pretty soon. But a lot of people think RMEF buys this land, and it's just for special people to hunt on. So how the mechanism works, if anyone cares to know, is that they go out, they get an option to buy the land, or they have what's called the Strategic Land Protection Fund, which is a big account that is restricted to take action real quickly. Say this property is going to sell really fast and it's critical access or critical wildlife habitat. They'll go out and buy it and hold it. And then they'll work with all of these
programs and partnerships to get as much of that money back as they can. They then transfer it to the BLM or to the Forest Service or to the State Wildlife Agency. And whatever money they're able to get back, they put back in that strategic land protection account. So it's like a revolving fund of how they do this. And sometimes they have long windows where a gracious landowner says, look, I'll give you a couple of years to raise the money.
Right.
Sometimes it's like, look, I'm in a bad way. I'm the executor of this estate, and I got to pay estate taxes in 6 months. So whoever shows up with the check within 6 months gets it. And so you got to be a little flexible that way. But the point is, RMEF, the only land they own is their headquarter building in Missoula. So I don't think you're going to be killing many elk in the headquarters there.
Not too many,
at Missoula. So anyone listening, that myth is just that. A myth. But I hope that more groups can get involved and find ways to work on public access. Like one of you said, we're all meeting with OnX at some point today. They are, if any group in the industry I know of is putting their money where their mouth is, it's OnX. We did last year, we did this Marcus, the public land llama thing that we sold just like you sold T-shirts on. And I think our pot of money from that, like $5,800 or $6,000 or something. Well, OnX is going to match that.
See, that's huge.
With a much bigger pool of money. And they've asked me, go to all these states that have these access programs. A lot of those people. Bring us some to consider. And so I did. And they're in discussions right now on a property that it's going to be an easement, that if that easement doesn't get acquired, tens of thousands of acres could get blocked off by a new owner who might buy this private. Because the main access road, right now there's no easement and it goes through private. So for not relative to what it would cost to buy the land, but buying the easement, they're going to get so much done with that. And I'm hoping that I'm not going to say where it is or what it is in case it doesn't get closed, but it's fun to see that happening, and they're all on board with it. I'm thankful that there are
absolutely
industry groups like
that's
that.
a big deal.
Yeah.
That's what you got to have. You have to have partners that support your mission and even have a similar one in mind.
Yeah. I can't even imagine how important it is to have something like OnX finding public land back in your part of the world, Aaron.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we use it every day.
Yeah.
I'm on there. I'm on there every single day on my phone or on the computer.
Yeah.
Just constantly.
Yeah. To me, that's been one of the biggest game changers of how I apply for tags and how I hunt.
Yeah.
If I did not have OnX in my palm, I don't know what I'd be hunting how I did back in 1996. And
I find myself like I drive a lot, but I'll spot a buck or I'll spot a turkey or whatever. And it's so fast, I pull it up, and even before the map loads, I can hit mark my location. And so I have all these random pins of stuff back and forth across the country where I've seen animals. And then on a few of those, I've been able to go back and then find public land surrounding like where I put that pin. And I've gone back and hunted and had successful hunts just from like, okay, quick, like boom, know exactly where that's at, But
I do that with turkeys all the time. You just pull up to a spot in the road that's kind of a high spot where you can probably hear this timber down below you and you can't see anything. It's similar to elk hunting, hunting bugling elk in the rut. You'll listen and it may be all private land around you, but there may be a little sliver of public in there that's half a mile, 3/4 of a mile in. And if that bird gobbles anywhere close to that from that high spot, then I can go around and get on the public and get back there. But I might not have heard him from the other side.
Right.
Where you're at, is most of the public land state land or county land?
It's a mixture
of everything.
I mean, we hunt a lot of like Federal Corps of Engineer, U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
We also hunt a ton of National Forest stuff and a lot of state. In Missouri, you can't film on the state lands.
Really?
So the only places that we hunt in Missouri are federal lands.
Okay.
In Iowa, though, most of what we hunt in Iowa is state or federal.
Yeah, and they don't have a problem on your state lands.
And Missouri's the only one that I'm aware of that we've hunted in.
Yeah,
but no, MDC, you can't film on their lands. You can't even get a permit or anything.
Yeah,
it's just a hard no. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
How are you going to promote Missouri's state land?
Well, that's what I tell them. Well, you guys want us to promote your stuff because that's why we want to come there. We want to hunt your lands, and they do such a good job of things like as far as their state agency goes,
right?
And how they manage resources, and all their public lands are just in great shape from what I've seen, and offer good hunting, and they have a good amount of public land, so they have a lot of access in comparison to a state like Iowa or Kansas. Missouri has a ton of good opportunity there.
Just can't show it.
Just can't show it. Can't go out there. Can't film it.
So it's Aaron's on his YouTube channel saying, just take my word for it.
Take my word for it.
Go to Missouri.
Yeah.
But Missouri is one of the few states that actually their game agency is partially funded by a percentage of the sales tax.
Yes.
That's, I can't think of any, I'm sure there might be another state out there that's like that. But Missouri is an example a lot of states look at to say, look, wildlife, conserved open space benefits every citizen. So at least a very small portion of that part of the game program or wildlife program should be funded by something other than excise taxes and licenses. And that probably is a big source of them to be able to do the things you talk about of keeping their lands in great shape. And
it is. And there's a lot of hunters in Missouri. A lot more hunters in Missouri than there is in those surrounding states.
Is there?
Yeah. Not like a Wisconsin or a Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But it's pretty high hunter numbers. I mean, I don't remember how many licenses were sold, but I'm sure it was 4 or 5 times the amount of what Iowa does. Now, granted, there's just more people in general in Missouri, but overall, way more public land to hunt. And Iowa, and people watch us hunting in Iowa all the time. We live in Iowa, and we're on public land, and they think, wow, that looks awesome, and it's great hunting. Don't get me wrong. But we just live in one part of the state where there's a good amount of public land.
Yeah.
And like everywhere else, there's not much at all.
Yeah. Right.
So.
You know Tony Peterson?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just on his podcast not too long.
Okay. He was on mine and I was on his, but for the last few years, we've been conspiring about what to do with all of my Iowa deer points. I've got enough Iowa deer points. I could hunt any unit in the state. And Tony tells me, have I got a deal for you? I'm like, what? He's like, no one will walk into this place. You would. He points at me and says, you would walk in here. I'm like, well, I don't know if is he thinking I'm an idiot? Probably. But anyhow, in 2020, Tony and I are trying to match our schedules up to go to a piece of public land in Iowa so I can empty out this big pile of points I have in Iowa.
That'd be good.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. You'd have a good time. There's been an influx of non-residents applying in Iowa just in the last 4 or 5 years. It was taking about 3 points to draw the premier units, 4 or 5 years ago. Now it's taking 4. Okay. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's up to 5 at some point in the next 5 years.
I've got like 7 or 8.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah. I just like making donations to all of wildlife.
You can do whatever you want.
And then South Dakota is making some changes to the non-resident hunting scene.
Yeah, they are. And again, just they're doing it's kind of protecting the resident hunting quality.
Yeah.
They're having an application deadline now. And there's an application deadline if you want to hunt public land. Mm-hmm. And then there's some access permits for different areas of the state for some of the more like coveted areas that are a lottery too. But I think overall it's good changes.
Yeah.
So, and then
for like whitetail season, isn't it? Am I correct in saying that like the residents can hunt a month before the non-residents?
They just changed that. So non-residents can't start archery hunting until October 1st.
I got you. Residents hunt September
1st. Yeah. And then on the rifle season side of things, they've changed it so everybody has to pick a first choice, where it used to be you could put in for multiple like first choices, and then the guys who are willing to travel to a bunch of different areas, they might draw 4 or 5 buck tags in different areas. And then the guys who like to stay home and hunt a certain area had a harder time drawing the tags. So overall, it will put more people. It'll put more people in the woods because more people will draw their first choice. And a lot of those people that are putting in only want to hunt close to home.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, I think state agencies have to make their residents their highest priority.
For sure.
Especially when the draw results come out, I get so much heat about, well, this state is screwing us over, or, it's federal land, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know how many times we've done podcasts and videos about the fact that if you're a non-resident, and we're all non-residents in 49 other states, or you better be, because if you're a resident in 3 or 4 states, someone's going to be giving you a phone call.
Have some legal issues to contend with. Yeah.
But in all reality, states do not have to give any non-resident opportunity if they don't want to. So glass half full, glass half empty, I guess, is what it comes to. I look at any state that gives away some non-resident tags, for me, is a thumbs up of, hey,
that's right.
That's more than by law they would have to give us.
Look at Montana. They went to it's whatever, $1,200 for a non-resident to get a deer and elk combo now.
Right.
And I would imagine that the majority of that reason was 2 motivations. Was one, it's extra money for people who are coming in from out of state. Like, the state agencies get more money. And 2, it helps protect the resident hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And we were just talking about Iowa and Missouri, whitetail states. And don't quote me on this because I don't know the exact numbers, but Iowa, they've had these hunter recruitment issues for some time now. And I think that's one of their main priorities is that non-resident point system to bring them in to sell those high dollar non-resident licenses. And like I said, I'm not seeing resident kids in high school in Albia, Iowa, deer hunting.
Wow.
Not to the degree that I feel like they should be.
Yeah. Well,
and that's kind of, I can't imagine that's a good strategy long term.
No, Shane Mahoney describes it. He illustrated the way he describes it is a really good illustration. There's this big lump in a snake that's moving through the snake, and the snake has not eaten anything else. So once that lump gets out of the snake, if you don't have anything coming in, the snake's going to die.
Right.
Yeah. That's a really good way to describe it.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
I know people are
except Shane said it in a very elegant way.
Yes, I can assure you that Shane's way of saying it is gonna. He has. There's no orator that I know is better than Shane Mahoney in our space, and but all that stuff is, for me, comes back to the whole public land advocacy thing that our platforms are built on. And I get a lot of heat. Why are you telling people this? Why are you showing them how to draw tags? Why are you talking about how these 5 periods of elk hunting? I had to learn all that by myself. Well, for me, I wish somebody would have shown me that. It would have. I think the 3 of us are bullheaded enough that we were going to become hunters and we were going to figure it out no matter what.
Right.
But those aren't the people that need to help.
Exactly.
Those aren't the ones we need to worry about.
Yeah, and people can complain about the woods being crowded or whatever, and I get it. But what's our option? Unless we're going to go buy easements or buy land to put more hunters on, as we lose more and more of the private land, there's going to be more hunters on the public land.
Right.
And that tells me the public lands become even more important to the future of hunting. And those really cool landowners that still want to work with a state agency or whatever,
they're more inclined to do so.
Yeah, and that makes them even more important to the bigger picture. And we better start making sure we're listening to them also and doing what we're working both our hunter behavior in the field, but the state agencies and the people trying to increase access. Those landowners that are still, I'll call them the old style traditional landowner, they're a valuable piece of this puzzle, and we gotta do what we can through whatever state access programs to keep them in it. Otherwise, this crowding, if whatever you want to call it, it's going to get worse, not better.
Yeah, if you're as serious as we are about hunting, then just be a leader, for everybody else. If you already know all that stuff, then you know how to figure it out. Yeah. Sure, it may get a little tougher in the meantime, but you've got the experience, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Like some of the other people that don't have that experience yet don't take it out on them. That's just selfish behavior.
Yeah. Well, that's why I asked both of you guys to help us with that project that we're doing with the International Hunter Ed Association. Mm-hmm. I'm not hosting any videos. I'm too old. So we were asked by the International Hunter Ed Association to help them put together a video platform and a social media platform directed at new hunters, but even a more specific targeted group of new hunters. If you look at who goes through Hunter Ed, we have over 200, as a total population, over 600,000 new people come into Hunter Ed every year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're recruiting, in some respects, enough hunters to replace those that are going out. But of those 600,000, there's a couple 100,000 of them that never even buy a license.
Right.
And our retention over 4 or 5 years gets to a fraction of that 600,000. Right. So the retention part of it, we recruit them all right, here we're to this point. Glad you identified that you want to be a hunter. And they go through the course, either an in-class course or an online course. And that's where we lose them.
Right.
Yeah, because they lose instruction, they lose mentorship and all those things they have to have in order to continue.
Yeah. And so this project, it's called Hunters Connect. And if you want to see it, you can go to huntered.com, or by the time this podcast is out, maybe, if not August 5th, whatever date this podcast gets released, their YouTube channel, Hunters Connect YouTube channel will be live. Their social media channels of Facebook and Instagram will be live. And I was looking for people who were relatable to a younger audience. And that target that we're focusing on here is, so I said 600,000+ people go to Hunter Ed every year. Over 200,000 of those take the online course. Mm-hmm. And that percentage is growing every year. And those people don't come from the mentored environment of the person who goes and sits in a class. The person who sits in a class probably comes from a hunting environment or culture. So the greatest number of people we're losing are the online Hunter Ed graduates, because they're probably, and I'm oversimplifying here, but I can see them being in an urban, suburban setting where they're just interested in hunting or food or the natural world. And so they jumped on, I'm going to take this class, and then we lose them.
Yep.
We lose way more of them than we do the in-class people. So that's what the Hunters Connect thing is. And I said, I need some young, smart people who can present well.
Smart.
And that's where I told the International Hunter Ed Association, I said, you know what? The hunting public guys and the Sam Soholt public school bus guy, we want to do some videos with them. And they gave me the thumbs up. So that's how you guys got.
Yeah, I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Yeah,
I mean, because that whole project is so much bigger than anything that all of us are doing.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the future right there.
Well, the days, you just mentioned it, the days of mentorship, the way that we learned, are gone or dwindling.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't have that anymore. Everybody, especially the new ones, they learn through the phone.
Yep.
They learn through the digital age of information. So you have to communicate that way.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple.
Yeah.
I've talked to various organizations like NWTF, like Hunting Heritage and that sort of thing, and that's the direction that they're trying to move as well, because they're pushing mentorship and retention hard as well as most of these organizations are. But I think that's a space where we can really make some headway.
Yeah. And these graduates, if they went and searched and found a Hunter Ed class online, they're accustomed to consuming information digitally. Mm-hmm. So these videos, they're going to seem pretty basic to someone who's been doing it all their life like we have. But we take for granted a lot.
Oh, yeah. You got to put yourself in the mindset that you were at when you were 11 years old taking those classes.
Yeah. Or even, one of you said, I started hunting when I was 6 or 9 or tagging along or whatever. By the time we're 7, 8 years old, we know the difference between a rifle and a shotgun. And we know that, a 12 gauge is actually bigger than a 20 gauge. It seems counterintuitive, but all this stuff, we know that, north is this way on your there are so many things through osmosis and just the culture when you grow up in it that you learn by the time you're 12.
Yeah.
That then you're asking some 24-year-old who has a sincere interest in becoming a hunter of, I'll just figure it out.
That learning curve is way too steep at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why we lose so many of them, I think, anyhow.
No, it's a fact. You talk to the state agencies out east as well, and that's one thing that they are trying to overcome. A lot of them had the youth seasons that they started, in the last 20 years. And those are awesome for recruitment.
Right.
But how do you retain those kids? They're like, yes, you take them hunting, you put them out there at a good time, you have a mentor with them, maybe they harvest an animal, that most of them have a good experience even if they don't. But then they want to go again down the road. They have to learn this stuff at some point. Like one trip to the woods and one turkey shot doesn't result in a lifelong hunter. It's that constant learning process over the years.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a good way to reach them.
Well, if you're listening to this, folks, and it's after August 5th, I hope you go to huntered.com. That's their homepage for IAGA's platform here that they're doing. And Hunters Connect are the names of both Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So hopefully people will most of my audience, I think, is a few years down the hunting path. And so when you see these videos, share them with people. Make people aware that it's out there, especially new hunters. I don't expect that someone who's been hunting for 20 years is going to watch it and say, boy, I learned a lot with that. That's not the idea.
Right.
This is lowering the hurdle as much as we can for the person who raised their hand and said, I want to be a hunter. We're providing information that hopefully helps do that. So,
yep.
But before we wrap up, I want to make sure the world knows how to reach you guys. I'm sure they probably do. But Aaron, you guys, your YouTube channel is The Hunting Public.
Yes, sir.
And you've got Facebook, Instagram, website, whatever.
Podcast.
What are they all?
The Hunting Public.
Everything.
Everything The Hunting Public.
And you got
Google it.
You got a website. You got like thehuntingpublic.com.
Huntingpublic.com.
And if they go there, they can find your podcast.
Yep.
They can buy that cool hat you're wearing.
Yep.
They can buy some T-shirts. They can put a bid in on the Smurf when you put it up for auction someday.
Nah, I'm not selling it.
No?
Nope.
You realize that when you retire that, there's going to be it's become such a part of your persona. You could probably sell it for way more than it would ever part out at.
Maybe, but think about that. Like, I could maybe sell it through our Instagram page to, one of our dedicated followers, or I could go down the road and put it on Craigslist and maybe get $250.
I think we should crowd.
The actual value of this thing isn't.
I think we should just crowdsource and have it bronzed, and then we'll park it. We'll put it at some public land somewhere.
Yeah, we could do that, or we could just shoot it with a bazooka.
Yeah, that would be more exciting.
About blowing it up with Tannerite or something, and like film it in slow motion. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be more fun.
So, folks, if you aren't subscribing to the Hunting Public YouTube channel, you're kind of missing out.
Thanks.
I don't know how I'll say that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do lots of fun and crazy stuff on there. Try to show people how much fun you can have hunting turkeys and deer primarily and all sorts of other things. Mm-hmm. We had a golfing video last week.
Really?
That was certainly entertaining, but not successful.
A golfing video?
Yeah, THP golf tournament.
Didn't you title it like the worst golfers ever?
Yeah.
I got to go check that one out.
It was really bad.
In the CPA world, you're expected to almost be a scratch golfer.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't golf. They get mad because I'll kick it out of the bushes or I'll roll it up a ways, get a better lie or something. Or
we hadn't even teed off yet, and a country club member came up to us and said, "You guys can't park your carts here." And we had one on the tee box. I was not mine. It was Jake's. And Jake honestly didn't know. So he's like, "Huh, you learn something every day." I'm like, "Oh, well, we're not going to make it through the first hole."
For those of you listening who golf and you know that I pick on golfing, I always say, well, if it was easy, they'd call it golf. That's why, is because I've been ostracized from the golf world. So I make fun of it now.
Yeah.
And all my CPA peers, they, like right now, today, beautiful July day, they're down at Valley View or Riverside, one of the golf clubs here in Bozeman, talking about their golf game.
Yep.
Bores me to tears, man. I would rather be the target at a pellet gun contest than it's like, give me a break. But I might go watch your golf episode there.
Yeah. It'll be entertaining. Like I said, to see these guys trying to play golf out there. But yeah, we got all kinds of stuff on the channel. All kinds of mostly whitetail related stuff, whitetail hunting related stuff, and then turkeys in the spring. We do small game and hope to do a little bit of Western stuff this time too.
Cool. You do any fishing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been fishing this whole trip.
Oh, you've been filming it?
I filmed a video. I got a vlog the other day of me and Mike fishing one of those little streams and catching trout.
Okay.
This was awesome.
Cool.
I freaking lose my mind when I hook in one of those things. Like, this is a quick, funny story. I know we need to get out of here in a second, but I completely lost it yesterday when I hooked into this big fish. Like, I was off by myself on this little kind of side channel, and I was drifting over this rock, just how Michael told me. He's like, you got to fish this little blue water in this cut right behind this rock. So I threw my fly in there, and I saw him come out of the bubbles,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, crap. And then I saw my indicator go under, and I hooked him. And I don't have a net because I just flew out here with a backpack.
Yeah.
In my reel. Like, I had to buy a $90 rod up the road when I got here. So I hooked this fish, and he comes out of the water, and it's a huge rainbow.
In a little creek.
In a little bitty creek. I mean, it ain't as wide as this room. It's a huge rainbow. And I've caught some like 4 or 5 pound fish at trout parks back in Missouri, that are stocked. Nothing like these. Yeah. And this fish is that big. And he's getting even bigger now because I didn't catch him, and I have no proof of this. So anyway, well, I guess there is proof because Mike heard me yelling. Because as soon as I hooked him, I saw him. I'm like, Mike, get over here. And I start just yelling and losing it. And eventually this fish takes me upstream, and I don't know what I'm doing when I'm fighting him, and I pull the hook out and I'm cussing, Yeah. And I turn around and there's these 2 little old ladies in a drift boat with these straw hats on like 30 feet from me that just watched that whole thing. And I was like, yeah, just had a big fish. Don't know if you saw that or not. I was yelling for my buddy to bring the net. So yeah, I get pretty excited on these trout, and we will have a fishing video up soon.
Cool. Get the net.
Get the net.
That's right.
Yeah, that's my wife. That's one of her. I mean, she needs a tattoo or a T-shirt that says "Get the net," because and when she says it with all the conviction that our marriage hangs in the balance. If this fish does not end up in the live well, we are going to arbitration here, marital arbitration. So for me, when I'm netting fish, there's a lot of pressure, man. It's like, holy cow, this could be really bad. So I understand the excitement. My wife, it is so fun to fish with her because she's the most subdued, quiet, modest person. A lot of people question whether I'm really married. She's that modest and that behind the scenes. But you get a walleye on the end of the line, and all this pent up modesty explodes in the course of 30 seconds. And if you lose that fish, oh man,
doghouse.
Oh, it is not pretty. So you should blame Michael for the guy running the net. Is always responsible for the lost fish.
In his defense, I had no net, which is
Well,
it's somewhat needed in these situations.
But you don't need a friend if you have a friend who has one.
Yeah, and he does. He helped me out yesterday. I yelled even louder when I hooked that big brown, and he came running over there. Yeah. I'm like waiting for this thing to break off any minute, and I'm trying to work him in, and I turn around, and here comes Mike running through the water. I'm like, yes, I got a chance at this one.
Well, Sam, where can people find you other than where your school bus is driving around? Are you on your way back to see family or something?
Yeah, so I'm going to leave tonight. I don't like driving in the heat because it's just way too hot.
Yeah,
microwave.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll leave this evening and probably drive, 6-7 hours and sleep for a couple and then keep rolling. But driving back to South Dakota tonight and tomorrow, and then I'm actually officiating one of my best friend's weddings next weekend in Minneapolis.
Whoa.
So, yep.
Officiating. When you said officiating, I thought it was like a boxing match or something.
I'm
wrestling
performing the ceremony. For
nice.
2 of my good friends. So
excellent.
This is my second wedding that I've done. So
really? Back when you said we got a lot of irons in the fire to make money, Sam's...
I don't get paid to do this, but...
He's marrying people on the weekends.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, heck.
So back there for at least a couple weeks because I'm going to the Minnesota Game Fair as well down in Minneapolis. So that'll be a fun trip. But if people want to follow along with what I'm up to, I don't have quite as many channels as Mr. Warbritton here. But the best way is just my Instagram, which is at Sam Soholt. I also have a YouTube channel, which is just my name, Sam Soholt, and I have a few things I can't talk about yet, but some pretty exciting stuff coming up this fall. So.
All right. Well, don't let all the cats out.
Oh, no, that's right. They got to go follow along.
Is it somewhere west or is it somewhere?
It'll be all over the place again.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Don't want to.
Yep.
don't want to ask for the old saying in the accounting world is don't ask a question that you can't handle the answer when you find out what it is. So, well, guys, I can't thank you enough. Thanks for all you do for the advocacy of public lands and public hunting. It's fun to watch you guys.
Thanks.
I really enjoy it.
Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate it.
It's good to talk to the original public land guy in this space.
Yeah.
The guy who's been faking it for longer. I've just been faking it longer than anyone else. So. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for listening, folks. Until the next time, go out and do something fun.